After being stopped in her car by police 3 times in 8 months, Marci Ien, the co-host of CTV's The Social, decided enough was enough and wrote an op-ed today in the Globe and Mail called "It Happened Again, I Had to Write." It details a stop that happened outside her home. By the end of the encounter, the officer gave her a warning for not stopping at a stop sign. Marci joins us now. Marci, tell us what made this time different.
Scott, thanks so much for having me with you. Well, this time it was at my house. The previous times it was in my neighborhood, so streets close by to my home. This time I had pulled into my driveway and then noticed flashing lights behind me that were coming from a cruiser. So that's what makes this time different. Also different this time, I got out of my car. I wasn't on the street. I wasn't being pulled over on the street. I was in my driveway. So I got out of my car to find out what had happened, what was wrong, and the officer told me to get back in my vehicle.
And this is at your house?
I'm in my driveway at my home. And so I was told to get back in my vehicle. I said, "Pardon." He repeated it. So I got back into my car. And then the officer approached. I cracked open the door to find out what was going on, and he told me to close it. And he gestured for me to lower the window, and I had to start the car again in order to do so. So I started the car, lowered the window, and that's when he told me that I was being stopped because I didn't stop at a stop sign, which was about 500 meters away, half a kilometer away from my house.
What did the officer do after that when he explained, about the stop sign?
He told me that I was being recorded, and I said, okay. He then asked for my identification, and I reached into the glove compartment and grabbed my registration and my license and my ownership. I handed it all to him, and as he looked at it, he asked me if I lived here. And so I said, yes, I do. He then took the information and went back to his cruiser and did whatever work he had to do. And I texted my family to let them know what was going on.
Now, as that was happening, how did that all make you feel?
Powerless, sick, frankly, to my stomach. And as I explained to the officer when he returned to my vehicle, I said, this has happened. I've been stopped 3 times in my own neighborhood in the last 8 months. And the initial questions are always the same. They are, do you live here? Which is what happened with this particular stop because I was at my house in the driveway. Or it's, do you live around here? Being the streets around my place. And then it's, do you own this vehicle? Or is this your vehicle? And I said to him at that point, I said, I've been reporting news for 25 years in this country and recently have told some of my personal stories. The last time I was stopped, I told that story on the air. And I said, I've done that. I said, here's the thing. I don't know how to explain this to my children because I talk a lot to them about what happens. They're savvy with regards to news. I don't know how to explain this to my kids. I said, what do I tell them when we teach them, respect and we teach them empathy and we teach them kindness and all of these things? And here I am on my own driveway, not getting any of that back. And he didn't say anything after that. He just listened to me. I talked for a while about all of those things, and he just listened. And then he said to have a good night. He said that he was giving me a warning. And I have to say, Scott, all 3 times that I've been stopped, that's what it has come to. I've not gotten a ticket for any of them. So 3 times stopped, 3 warnings, the same questions. And so he left, but I stayed. I stayed in my car for a while. I was so upset and then finally made it inside and told my husband and my son, who is 6, what had happened.
There's been a long debate in various cities across the country, Toronto, Hamilton, Kingston, about racial profiling. Do you think that happened in this case?
I do. I've Talk to friends. You know, I phoned one of my best friends, Lainey Louie, after this happened, and I talked to others, you know, when I've been stopped previously, and to a person, and this is just frankly, you know, my circle, to a person, they have all said, this has never happened to me, and they are white or, you know, Asian, they're not black. This has never happened to me, or these questions are never asked. And so I know. It's not about do I think, I know. And that's why this time I thought it important to put pen to paper and speak to what has happened to me. Because I know that if this is happening to me, well, we know already, it's well documented, that it's happening to many others. And it's unacceptable that it is. It's just that with others, they may not have a platform. They may not have a voice. And I want to make sure that I use mine and I use it effectively.
I have about 40 seconds left here. What kind of response to the op-ed in the Globe and Mail? I mean, it's one of the biggest papers in the country.
Yeah, it's been a mixed response. There's so many people who have said, thank you for sharing this story. You know, we appreciate it. There are people who said, listen, this has happened. There have been people who said, listen, I've been in a car with black friends and we've been stopped. One gentleman said he was stopped, he was in a car with black friends, he being Caucasian, and was asked whether he was okay. I mean, we know that things happen. We also know that there are a lot of amazing police officers out there. So this is not about being anti-police, it's about sharing my story. But the other part of this is that there have been some who say, well, you broke the law, you didn't stop, you know, so you're lucky to have gotten a warning. And my response to that is, if I had broken the law, I would have welcomed a ticket. In fact, I said to the officer, please give me a ticket. I don't want another warning. If I've done something wrong, then ticket me. Or stop me at the place that this happened, not in my driveway. So.
Marci, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it, Scott. Take good care.
You as well.